It's time to talk some boxing tonight. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Gen Sports Corner. Back at you. Monday, February 3rd. Back talking some boxing. Look, big fight. David Morrell Jr. and David Benavidez Jr. squared off on Saturday night at T-Mobile Arena. And look, it lived up to the hype. It lived up to the hype. David Benavidez was able to come out and really dominate in many respects. However, Morrell, he came out and he was game, man. He was trying to hurt Benavidez. Benavidez was able to do what he usually does, but it was tougher this time. It was tougher this time. I made a prediction on Saturday. I thought that Morrell would be able to maybe edge out the fight, but like I said before, I thought it was a 50-50 fight. I thought it was a 50-50 fight. You have two young lions, both in their primes. Morrell, I think, in my opinion, probably the most dangerous opponent that Benavidez has had at this point because he has dynamite in his hands. He's a slick boxer from that Cuban school of thought, but just more offensive minded. And I thought he would fight differently than he did, just tactically. But even so, he took a lot of shots, but he was also dishing it out in points. And even though Benavidez won, I would say most of the. I think he dominated overall in some of those rounds, but those rounds were highly contested at points because Morrell, he would take shots, he would be moving back to the ropes, but then he would come back with shots of his own. And there were moments in that fight where he certainly got David Benavidez's attention. But let's go ahead into the punch stats. And then I want to get into the fight between Stephen Fulton and Figueroa after this, because that was also pretty cool rematch. Seeing Fulton being able to get that dub again. But let's go ahead into the box stats for Benavidez and Morrell Jr. And I think this kind of it's pretty obvious that Benavidez was able to land more of the shots, more of the effective shots as well. So he landed 224 out of 553 thrown punches to Morrell's 165 landed, and he threw 601 punches. So Benavidez had a 41% connect rate roughly, and Morrell had a 28% connect rate roughly. Benavidez won the war of the jabs as well, and I think you could see that just with your eyes looking at it round by round. And then you look at the power shots thrown, Benavidez landing 181 to Morrell's 136. Even though Morrell threw more, he was landing a lot on the gloves, wasn't able to get around the guard the way he really wanted to, whereas Benavidez, he was able to get around Morrell's guard. They both used the high guard, as I was talking about in the video, but Benavidez, he was able to come up the middle of that high guard and land a lot of uppercuts. And we've seen other guys go down, but Morrell, to his credit, he was right there. But what I didn't like, though, this is something that was perplexing to me. Two things. So Morrell, he has very, very good footwork, as I mentioned, but he didn't really use it. From the jump, it seemed as though he wanted to stand and trade with Benavidez, and I don't really understand the strategy. It's almost the antithesis of what we saw with Beterbiev and Bivol. Bivol being the smaller fighter compared to Beterbiev in terms of power, and Bivol, he stood in front of Beterbiev at points, but he was moving. He was using his legs. He was moving around the ring. He wasn't trying to stand there and be a stationary target. And I thought that Morrell did that far too often. He would stand with that high guard, leaning forward, and he just caught too many punches, in my opinion. And this is just a learning experience for him, coming up against a pro style opponent, who's just better than the competition he's been facing. So some of the things that he was getting away with, he just couldn't get away with in this fight. And then secondly, I didn't understand. I didn't like the tactics that he had. You see Benavidez in the high guard, you have to start going down to the body more. He was headhunting a little too much. And again, you look at CompuBox, and he didn't go to the body that often. So you look at like total punches, you have 165 of his total punches landed, he only landed 37 punches to the body, whereas Benavidez landed 76 out of his 224 landed punches to the body. He pretty much doubled the amount of body shots that he landed against Morrell, and he was really, especially whipping those hooks to the body. You could see it on Morrell's torso, and I just didn't understand why he was staying stationary. One reason could be from fatigue, but early on in the fight, before he was really fatigued, he was still standing in front of Benavidez. So I just think tactically he fought the wrong fight. Similar in a similar way to in the Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney fight. Devin Haney came out and wanted to stand toe-to-toe with Ryan Garcia, which made absolutely no sense, and especially since they both knew each other and were familiar with each other from the amateurs. So I just thought that was a tactical miscalculation on Morrell's part. That being said, there were a few moments. The fourth round where Benavidez was able to buzz Morrell, and then Morrell was able to clip Benavidez. I think it might have been a right hook, and he got David's attention. He didn't really have him in serious trouble, but it was one of the first times in a while where we saw Benavidez get turned around and he was the one backing up into the corner. We just don't see that from Benavidez. As well as the 11th round. I think that was more of a shot where he was caught off balance. He didn't really catch him flush or clean like that. I don't even know if he really caught him at all. But I think part of that was just fatigue. And then the punch after the bell, which, let me know what you guys think. Would you have taken a point? I mean, to me, that was obviously late. So, but I will say this much. I think it was the first time, including the fight against Vosdick, where Benavidez just wasn't able to stop somebody after applying constant pressure on them the entire fight. Vosdick, he was landing punches at will, couldn't even budge Vosdick. Morrell, not as big of a fighter as Vosdick, but obviously had a good chin, and he was able to take punches and still give back fire at times. I thought that Benavidez obviously won the fight, but it was a great experience for Morrell because he got a chance to be in there with a monster and really see, okay, I wasn't able to beat him this fight. Tactically, I can make some adjustments, but I can hang with some of these guys if I made the adjustments, go back to the drawing board. And Benavidez, he got a chance to go against a guy who was a firecracker, man. Like, this was a risky fight. And that's why I called it a 50-50 fight. I said I saw it going either way, and it was one of those fights where you didn't have enough evidence seeing these guys fight at 175, so it's kind of tough to kind of call those fights. If they were fighting at 168, I would have a much easier time predicting that fight, and I probably would have gone with Benavidez. It was just the uncertainty with both guys seeing them at 175, but either way, I thought it would be a good fight, and it was a good fight, man. And you never know. We don't know where each guy will go moving forward. Turki Al-Ashish said that he wanted the winner of this fight to match up against the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol in the rematch coming up in February. So that we will see. So we'll be waiting for news for that. But regardless of where these guys go forward, I think that Morrell is certainly still in the mix. So who knows if there's a rematch eventually? Because Morrell, he's a young fighter. This is only his 12th pro fight. And Benavidez is, again, he's in his prime. Like, I would say the beginning of his prime. So, look, great fight. Let me know what you guys think of that fight. And then let's go ahead and switch over to the fight between Stephen "Coolboy" Fulton and Brian Figueroa. That was the rematch. They had the first fight. Brandon Figueroa. The first fight, Fulton was able to win, and this is before the Inoue loss that Fulton had. He came back, had a less than stellar fight coming off the loss, but he came back and fought Figueroa at 126, I believe, at featherweight, and he won that fight. It wasn't really a question in my mind. Now, I just saw the highlights, but listen, when a man comes out in jean shorts and imitation Tim boots in a boxing ring, like as Philly as as Philly as you can get, as close to the year 2000 as you can get. He comes out and absolutely just takes the title, and he took Figueroa's WBC belt out, WBC belt at 126, and now he has a title again. I mean, look, congratulations to Fulton, man. Very proud of him for coming back. I remember that anyway fight that I covered, and I gave my sentiments after the fight, and I said, listen, people were getting on, getting after him, saying, oh, look, he's not a good fighter, and he got stopped by anyway, and he looked like he didn't belong, and da da da. I'm just like, listen, people don't realize how tough of a sport boxing is, man. It is a brutal sport. People just think of the people that have no losses and that you're supposed to win every fight, and as soon as you lose that, oh, people are quick to go. And look, man, we gotta stop that, man, because that mindset makes it so that fighters don't want to take the big fights. They don't want to take the tough fights because they're thinking about this. They're thinking about how their money's going to be affected. They're thinking about how their legacy is going to be affected. And why? Like, somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. It doesn't take away from what those men are as fighters or what they've accomplished and what they can accomplish moving forward. And he's successfully been able to take time off, come back, rebuild himself, and get a title again, man. Like, give that man his props. So, congratulations, man. Very, 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 very proud of Fulton and what he was able to do. Philly dude, hometown dude. So, much respect. Let me know what you guys think about that fight. And then, last but not least, listen, we got Benavidez and Bivol coming up. Who do you have winning the rematch? What do you think is going to happen? What things do you think will change coming up into this rematch? As I think about this fight and the first one, some of the things I'll be thinking about is what tactical things will Bivol change? Is he going to engage more or pick and choose his spots? Is he going to have more movement? Is he going to go to the body more? Is Benavidez going to apply more pressure this time and not be as tepid at times? These are valid questions, man. But there's a lot going on at 175. 175 is popping off for the first time in a very long time. The last time it was really popping, in my opinion, was when maybe when Andre Ward was having his back and forth clash with Kovalev. But since then, I mean, there have been contenders, but we haven't paid as much attention to the division. And until really Canelo stepped up and wanted to fight Bivol, and then people were like, oh, well, who's Bivol? So, and then you started to get eyes back on the light heavyweight division. And now people are like, oh, well, Bivol, oh, who's Benavidez? So it's nice to see this division alive again, and you have a lot of you have two dominant fighters there right now, in my opinion, and then you have some up and coming guys like Benavidez, and I would still say Morrell, man. You just got to go back to the drawing board and get back after it, man. But let me know what you guys think about that, and obviously, I'm going to be talking about Crawford and Canelo. It seems like it's official now. It was breaking news on ESPN, so I'm going to have to talk about that as well. But let me know what you guys think about that, and catch you on the next episode. Deuces.